Hello and welcome to Threefold Herbal Healing. I'm herbalist Leo Sade. I help people who struggle with chronic conditions grow their health from the roots up. Today I'm talking about depression, not as an imbalance in your brain, but as a whole body experience. Let's dive right in. For decades, the dominant model of explaining depression was a serotonin deficiency. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that helps us form new brain connections. It is involved in rewarding us for behaviors that increase our social status and self esteem, as well as learning, memory, cognition, and sleep. SSRI, the medication that conventional medicine use for depression, stand for selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. They are used as antidepressant because they are believed to block the cellular recycling system of serotonin in the synapses. So more serotonin stay in the synapse and exert more effect. So if the belief is that depression is a result of serotonin deficiency, leaving more serotonin in the synapse makes sense. But unfortunately, about a third of the people with depression experience relief from symptoms when using SSRI. Two-thirds of the people who experience depression don't feel relief with SSRIs. The chemical imbalance theory couldn't explain why most people with depression don't benefit from SSRI, or why some people benefited from lifestyle shifts but others did not. At the same time, a new model emerged. The new model suggests a dynamic systemic explanation that involves stress response, inflammatory pathways, and circadian cycle. A growing body of evidence suggests that chronic increase in stress hormones stimulate the secretion of pro-inflammatory immune messengers that contribute to the complex picture of depression symptoms. Factors that are common contributors to sustained chronic inflammation, such as psychological stress, disrupted sleep, poor diet, sedentary behavior, and obesity, can in some people promote not just inflammation, but depression too. The relationship between depression and inflammation is biodirectional. Low-grade sustained inflammation may make you susceptible to depression because it drains you of your vital forces. You feel more tired, more sluggish, more depressed. However, isolation, fatigue, and loss of motivation and interest can activate the HPA stress response and lead to inflammation. So inflammation can lead to depression. Depression can lead to inflammation. Biodirectional relationship. Modern lifestyle is the perfect trigger. Almost every facet of modern life promotes sustained low-grade inflammation. The most common health condition in modern world is low-grade sustained inflammation. That is because of our lifestyle. So let's start by talking about diet and metabolic condition. It is not a secret that the standard American diet is SAD, pun intended. SAD diet is high in empty calories and low in nutrients. High calories promote high glucose, insulin resistance, and diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and obesity, all of which are inflammatory conditions. Empty calories means that your cells don't get the vitamins and minerals they need to produce energy, and that your body doesn't have this substrate it needs to repair tissue wear and tear, produce hormone, enzymes, and neurotransmitters. That might lead to serotonin deficiency if you don't have all the right substrate. Let's talk a little bit about sleep. The immune system is like a tight-walker. It constantly balances between overaction is sustained inflammation and autoimmune disease, and underaction, deficiency, which leaves you vulnerable to recurring cold and flu. So the immune system is trying to balance between those two extremes. Deep restorative sleep is essential for balancing the immune system. Sleep debt or sleep disorder will promote pro-inflammatory immune messengers. We are a culture of high productivity. We don't make rest and sleep a priority. At the same time, being overweight increases the risk of sleep apnea, a sleep disorder that elevate your nighttime cortisol and promote high blood glucose and chronic stress. I worked with a client who was a doula. She worked night shift from about 10 o'clock to 6:30 in the morning and had all the symptoms associated with circadian rhythm disruption. Her circadian cycle was out of whack. She was able to get maybe 6 hours of sleep during the day, but her sleep wasn't restorative. She was obese, with high blood pressure and chronic high stress. Her depression was just added on top of all other conditions she had. So you really have to get a good night's sleep that is restorative in order to avoid depression. And not getting a good night's sleep, we know, is associated with brain inflammation. What about stress? When you think of stress, you most likely think of psychological stress. And with what's happening right now in the world, I really don't blame you. However, stress is far more than psychological stress and trauma. For example, nutrient-replete diet is experienced in the body as famine, which is very stressful. Exercising too much or too little increases your stress hormone cortisol. An important factor to know about stress hormones, glucocorticoids, is that they suppress the immune system. However, chronically elevated cortisol lead to cortisol-resistant immune cells, which means that usual anti-inflammatory signals no longer register effectively. So even if your immune system sends signals, reduce inflammation, reduce inflammation, reduce inflammation, your immune system doesn't hear it anymore when you are in chronic stress. People who run the modern lifestyle hamster wheel may be prone to a cycle of immune dysregulation and low-grade inflammation. And when I'm talking about a cycle of immune dysregulation, I'm talking about flare of inflammation, autoimmune disease, and then immune system that is deficient, that is not functioning, that can't heal wounds and flus and cold. So we are talking about overacting, underacting. And low-grade inflammation is another thing that is common with people that are on the run all the time. And that predisposes them to emotional burnout and depressed mood. While each one of those factors, metabolic condition, poor sleep, and chronic stress, drains the body of resource, when all of the three of them come together to feed the fire of sustained inflammation, they likely to lead to depression. When the immune system is constantly activated, it tries to adapt by conserving resources or vitality. Immune system that always had to be in full run will try to protect itself, to adapt by working on the minimum resources or vitality that it needs. It will promote brain networks that function as functional units, lowering activity, detaching from social engagement, reducing appetite, and decreasing libido as a way to heal. Depression is not a condition by itself, but a symptom of an immune crisis. Therefore, treatment for depression should not be limited to prescribing medicine for neurotransmitter imbalance Instead, it needs to consider the complexity of the condition and support a nutrient-dense diet, restorative sleep, stress management, and movement. In Victorian times, doctors had the right idea about treating people with melancholy. Then convalescent houses were places where mostly rich people, let's admit it, retreated to when their nerves were frayed. Today, we might call those places retreat center, which were located by water, either by the sea or near mineral baths, like in Bath in England. When you consider that water is the element of life and its role in healing and vitality, it totally makes sense. I know that for me, when I go sit by a creek or by a lake, by moving living water, I feel restored and healed. A retreat on the beach, soaking up the sun and relaxing in the water, all while being fed healthy diet and getting a restorative sleep, might be the key component to any care plan for the person with depression. But don't get me wrong. Depression is a complex condition that a week-long vacation on the beach will not reverse. Instead, it requires the slow, consistent work of modifying your lifestyle to reduce inflammation. So it's not a week long of healthy diet, movement, restorative sleep. Rather, it is a lifestyle of doing all of those consistently and taking the steps to reduce inflammation over time. I hope you found it beneficial. Let me know in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I am here if you need any of my help. You can find me at www.threefoldherbalhealing.com. That's my website. If you need any help, I'm offering a 15 minutes free consultation for people who want to present me with their issues and find out if I can actually help them. Thank you for taking the time. Bye.